You are now tuned into First and Locks with Rico's Locks and BK Picks. Here's your host, Rico's Locks.
Welcome in, everybody. Episode 4 of the First and Locks podcast with your host, Rico's Locks. BK Picks over here, co-host. How you doing, man?
Doing well, brother. Hope you are.
Doing well, man. Episode 4 of the podcast. Looking forward to getting into it. We're going over the Big Ten. Going to recap week 0 from last week. Had a couple crazy games. The dogs were barking on the spread. It was wild. Going to break down the Big Ten, like I said. Talk week 1 picks as well. But first, let's get into week 0 and let's talk about the first game of the year. Georgia Tech and Florida State. Wow, what a game it ended up being. I'm not gonna pat myself on the back, you know what I'm saying, but I pretty much called it to how I thought it was gonna happen. It was gonna be a nasty game, weird game, and they kept it kind of low scoring. It was kind of looking high scoring at first, but then they, you know, settled down a little bit, started playing some defense, and Georgia Tech kicks the game-winning field goal, wins the game. What do you think about the game, man?
It was crazy, man. You know, Haynes had a great game. I definitely feel like FSU took a step back for sure. I was not impressed with their defense. They got the ball ran all over them. It was just rough all the way
Jamal
around.
Haynes, bro. I told you that he was like that, bro. Jamal
Both Haynes.
Both Haynes. And DJU once again underperforming. He was underthrowing some passes that he should have had he had a couple of them that were touchdowns that he underthrew. Couple of plays, and he just wasn't making the throws that he needed to make. Same old DJ, you know.
Yep.
So
0.1 yards per attempt in the first half. 0.1.
That's crazy, bro.
Throw the ball downfield, son. You can throw 70 yards.
That's crazy. Wow. But yeah, anyways, it was a good day as far as the bets there. I had Georgia Tech with the spread, obviously. I wish I would have sprinkled the money line, but I did not.
Yeah.
Other people who heard me talk about it on because I went on Mr. Plus's live. He has a show he does called the Icebox. I went on there. There's about 200-300 people watching, and people on there told me they took the money line because I sounded so confident in it. So even sometimes myself don't go with what I'm talking about on the money line. But hey, we win with the points, and we get the win there. So moving on, SMU game was kind of disappointing. Yeah, they were minus 27.5 favorite, and they ended up only winning by 5. They ended up having to come back to win the game.
Dude,
crazy. They looked horrible.
That game was ugly.
Dude, I couldn't stand watching it.
When you want to talk about, you know, people were assuming more or less that SMU was going to be able to carry, you know, some sort of level going into the ACC, and then they come out first game, they're playing Nevada. You're like, okay, you know, this is just a get right first game, you know, go out there and squash.
Right.
Yeah, they squashed all right.
Yeah.
Their offense
was man.
Terrible, man.
They looked horrible. Their quarterback didn't look like he was in sync. He just looked out of it. I don't know if he was nervous, game jitters or what, but he just looked horrible.
And it was like he was forcing reads so crazy. Stone was just like throwing it straight to the guy. It was like, oh, I'm going to look at you straight in the mouth, and then I'm going to throw you the ball and not expect somebody to jump in front of it.
Like, dude, Nevada is not supposed to be good at all.
No.
And y'all are struggling with them. Like, that's bad. Like, I told myself I'm not taking SMU in many games, and having them 5th in my ACC ranking, I'm probably thinking about dropping them lower after that.
Yeah.
But
they're on the trash.
That was not a good.
Sure.
Yeah, that was not a good showing from SMU. I expected more. But anyways, moving on. What other games do they have? Montana State, New Mexico. I had a little bit of money on Montana State. They upsetted me a little bit. They were struggling in the first half and ended up coming back to win that game. They were 13.5-point favorites, biggest for a FCS team on the road in, I think, ever in history.
And one thing I wanted to say about that game, weren't they down at one point like 31-14?
Yeah, they were getting crushed. They were getting crushed, and they came all the way back and came back and won. Yeah.
And they're a run-heavy team, too. So it's not like they were just throwing the ball. They were still pounding the rock.
Dude, their quarterback, when I was watching, looked so bad. He had a pick six or a fumble pick six or whatever. It was either a pick six or a fumble, and it was rough. And I was like, dude, this team's horrible. And I just stopped watching. But they ended up coming back. So come back and don't cover. Gotta love that. So that was one of the only L's I had, but that was rough. But anyways, moving on, we'll get into the Big Ten now. We kind of already touched on it in one of the first episodes, talked about who we had winning. I had Oregon. Who did you have, BK?
I had Oregon as well.
You had Oregon as well. That's right. Okay. So yeah, coming into a new conference, we think Oregon's going to take over, which is interesting because everyone thinks Ohio State, loaded squad.
Nope.
I just think they're going to choke in that big game, but we'll get to that. Do you want to start with the lower tiers first, or
Yeah,
do you want
that's
to start
fine.
higher tiers first? Okay, we'll go lower tiers. All right, we'll go with a tier 5 is what we had it labeled. We got Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, and Michigan State in that tier. We could start with, who did you have at the very bottom?
At the very bottom,
Yeah,
probably is going to be Northwestern.
Northwestern. Okay,
They're going to be rough.
let's get into why you think they're going to be rough.
They have way too many bad players in bad positions. You're talking, you're playing in the Big Ten. You need skill players. They don't have it.
No.
They had the scandal last year, that kind of derailed, their whole ordeal with recruiting and everything else. So it doesn't help with that either. They look like they're going to be pretty bad for the next coming years. Don't expect much from them. Yeah, it's a rough spot for Northwestern right now, in my opinion.
I'm with you on that. They have a second-year coach. Both coordinators are new, both sides of the ball. Like you said, they don't have any good players at skill positions. It's going to be rough. The trenches don't look good for them either, honestly. No. Yeah, they got quarterback Mike Wright from Vanderbilt. I mean, he was okay at Vanderbilt, but I'm not expecting much out of them. Yeah, like you said, they have not very good skill positions and whole new coaching staff pretty much outside of the head coach. So yeah, I'm not really high on them either. I have them, I think, as my last place team as well at 2-10.
Yeah, they're going to be rough. I want to say their over under was pretty high too.
Really?
I want to say it was 4 games.
If it's 3.5, I like the under on that. I'm going to look into that while we're on the podcast. Moving on, though, who did you have as your next team?
Next team right below them, I'm going to go ahead and go with Minnesota. They do have some good spots.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a toss-up for me between them and Purdue.
I think Purdue is there for me. It's either Purdue. I either got to go Purdue or who else I have on this list? Purdue or Michigan State for me.
But see, the thing about Michigan State for me is, man, like I really, really like that transfer quarterback they have. Childs, that dude is gross.
I do agree with that.
I mean, I think they're going to be able to build around him.
And they got the tight end from Oregon State too.
Yeah,
he transferred too.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, but I do like that head coach a lot. I think he runs a really good pro style offense that will suit well for them. Their schedule is not very favorable, but at the same time, I do think they'll be solid. It's not like I don't think they're going to be in the same. It's kind of hard because Northwestern is so bad that putting them in next to Michigan State makes Michigan State look really good. But in retrospect, they're both tier 5 teams.
Right.
So that's where I'm like, I don't know, man. Minnesota, Purdue, you could flip flop them. I have Indiana down there as well, but yeah. It's just a bunch of teams.
I kind of think Indiana. I have Indiana in my next tier 4, one of the last teams at tier 4. I think Indiana could be kind of sneaky, and we'll get to that. But
okay,
I agree with. I got Purdue as my next to worst team. I got them at 16. I just don't think they're going to be that good, man. They got Hudson Card coming back at quarterback. Skill positions, wide receivers are weak, in my opinion. Not a very good defense at all as well. So yeah, I'm not very high on them. I got them 3-9. Yeah, not the easiest schedule for them. I got them 3-9. So that's where I would have Purdue, and then right behind them I would have Michigan State. So
okay,
yeah, that's who I got. Purdue and then Michigan State. Michigan State, like you said, got a solid QB with Aiden Childs coming in from Oregon State. They got their tight end coming into. Got another transfer linebacker who's pretty good as well from Old Dominion. We got new coordinator. The thing that scares me though with Michigan State, BK, is the new coordinators on both sides. Like I don't like when I see that usually.
Well, it's a whole new staff in general. I mean, the guy brought a staff with him. So
that's right.
So I mean, I think he'll have continuity in that aspect, but in the same extent, it's a lot of moving parts. It's kind of similar in the ways that we've talked about other teams that just have a ton of moving parts this year that you're just not really sold on. they're going to have to show it. And I mean, they have some really good skill position guys, in my opinion. They'll be solid. They'll have building blocks this year, but they're not going to do a whole lot.
Yeah, they did get the number 13 transfer class, so they did do good on that end as well. So obviously the QB leading the way there. Yeah, I think Michigan State in that bottom tier got them 15. Like I said, they could go higher. Like you said, I could see them being a little better than what I said as well. But then that's when we talk about who'd you have at 14?
14 for me, I'm going to have to go with UCLA. I think they're going to be pretty rough. I almost threw them in tier 5, honestly, but I knew that there was a separation between the two. Tier 4 for me, I believe I only had 3 teams. I think you had more, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, UCLA is the bottom of tier 4 for me. They're just going to be rough. Lost Chip Kelly. Dante Moore's gone. You know, I really don't have a lot of faith. UCLA is one of those teams that they got brought over to package with USC. That's pretty much the only reason why they came, in my opinion. The same reason why when Oregon came, you got Washington as well. So I don't know, man. They're just going to be rough. I defensive side of the ball, I don't really like them. They're a former Pac-12 team. So, you know, Pac-12 doesn't play the greatest defense in the world. They lost their best pass rusher to the NFL. Like I said, they lost their star quarterback, in my opinion, in Dante Moore. He's going to go sit a year at Oregon, and he'll probably start next year there. Just rough sledding for the Bruins, I believe, this year. So,
yeah, I think Bruins. I got them at 6-6 or 5-7, so I had them a little higher than you did on my rankings. I think Ethan Garbers could be interesting at quarterback. He's finally getting some, the start this year. Full playing time. He had decent numbers in games that he did play last year. They bring in Eric Bieniemy, Chiefs' old offensive coordinator, won 2 Super Bowls. I mean, that's interesting there. New head coach, new defensive coordinator as well. I mean, they got Rico Flores coming in from Notre Dame as well. Oh, did he play for Notre Dame? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sounds right.
I don't Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it was Notre Dame, but don't quote me on that. Could be different school, but yeah, they got Rico Flores and they got the running back TJ Harden back. So they got decent skill positions, I think. So I think they could win 5-6 games. That's where I got them at.
Who's your bottom tier team for tier 4?
I got Illinois and Minnesota. Who else we didn't go over as well?
No, for tier 4.
For tier 4.
Yeah.
I had 5 teams in my tier 5, and then I had 4 teams in my tier 4.
Okay, so who would be the next team up for you then?
I had Minnesota and then Illinois to end my tier 5.
Okay.
Because you had UCLA. And we can talk about Minnesota now because that's who my team is going to be playing on Thursday, who we will talk about once we get to the week 1 predictions. So Minnesota, they got 8 offensive players coming back, both sides of the ball, 16 returning players total. They bring in a quarterback, FCS quarterback, who had some good numbers, the best numbers. He had the best passing numbers in the FCS, Max Brosmer. He looks to be a pretty good quarterback. I'm not going to lie. I mean, strictly based off numbers, you would think so. But not all FCS quarterbacks are, ready for FBS talent. Yep. So that's to be said as well. Is he going to be, really nervous in his first FBS game? We'll see. He could be good, though. Like I said, the numbers are convincing. So we'll see. They got good running backs. I think a top 10 running back in the nation, top 10 running back room in the nation, and Darius Taylor and Marcus Mason transfer from Oklahoma. They got a strong running back room. That's what kind of worries me for Carolina because, our defense ain't the best. So that's worrisome. They got a transfer receiver, Tyler Williams as well, came in from Georgia. So they got a decent offense on paper, it looks like. So
yeah. But y'all do actually pretty well versus the run. It's the pass that y'all get killed in.
Exactly. That's what I was going to get to. But yeah, you're right. The pass is what usually kills us. But I think Minnesota could be all right. I'm not really sure how I feel about PJ Fleck. 8 seasons in, he hasn't really done much in my opinion. He's had decent seasons, but other than that, not really too impressed. They had a decent transfer class, so not really too high on this team, but I got them 4-8 or 5-7 at best is what I have them at. So that's why I had them that lower tier still. But yeah, that's what I think about Minnesota. Decent, could be a decent team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're better than that record I said. They could win 6-7 games, and I wouldn't be shocked. But that's what I have them at based off schedule.
Yeah. Next up for me, I had Maryland. I think they're going to be solid, but they lost a good amount last year. Tualea, which is Tua's little brother. He's gone now. I can't remember what team he got drafted to. But yeah, he's gone now. So gonna have to have a new quarterback under center. They lost some big pieces as well on the outside. So I don't know. Maryland usually is a solid team. Never really do much with it. 7-8 wins is where they usually sit. I think they'll be a little bit lower this year. But you never know.
Yeah. I actually had Maryland in my next tier as my third team in that next tier. So pretty close to where you have them. Yeah, they got quarterback MJ Morris coming in from NC State. Interesting. Kind of funny.
Finally gets a start for sure.
Yeah, for real. Finally, he's going to get a start for sure.
Yeah.
They got some interesting pieces. Their running backs kind of scared me a little bit. They got some decent receivers. Ty Felton, he's a decent receiver.
Yeah.
Their trenches scare me.
Yeah,
don't really yeah.
Especially in Big Ten football, dude, not being able to have it in the trenches is not good because that's where the Big Ten live and dies.
Exactly. Literally nailed it on the head right there. So they kind of scare me there with the trenches aspect. Don't have a good transfer class either. Didn't really bring that many great players in. 4 offensive returners, so not too many. Yeah, I got this team 6-6, 7-5 at best. But yeah, they're on that outside, like last team in my tier 4. And I got Illinois was to round out my tier 5. So
I got you.
They were to round out my tier 5, and then I had Maryland, and then Washington after them, and then Indiana. So,
and I believe we had a little bit of a difference in Washington. So I guess we can go ahead and get to them next, since we split tiers with them. They'll be tier 3 for me, tier 4 for you, correct?
Yep, tier 4 for me.
I think they'll be solid. When you want to talk about moving parts, that's a team that's got a gajillion of them.
A million of them.
Losing Penix, Adunze, running backs gone. They have a ton gone. Kalen DeBoer, head coach, now in Alabama. All their coordinators wiped out. So I don't know. I do like the fact that they did well in the transfer portal. I like Will Rogers. I've always liked him. He's a gunslinger. He's going to throw the ball. He don't care.
Facts.
So I do like them to be able to, steal a couple when they probably shouldn't. I had them having 7 wins. So I do like their chances to be able to have 7-8 wins. And that would be a great season, especially with the amount of turnover that they've had. So.
No, for sure. And that, like you said, they have a really good transfer portal class, number 11 transfer class, 28 commits in that class. It's crazy. A lot of moving pieces, like you said, which worries me. And that's why I have them lower than what you have them at. 2 returners on offense, 4 on defense. It's not a lot of returning players at all.
Nope.
Obviously, quarterback Will Rogers is a good quarterback. He was at Mississippi State for a while. He was good over there. No, not great, but solid. He was a solid quarterback.
He's your average gunslinger. So
right. I think he will be at Washington as well. They got some transfers coming in. Jonah Coleman, running back from Arizona. He should be good. Questions for me are in the trenches. They did get the tackle, though, in the transfer portal. That looks pretty good. But other than that, man, they don't have much going on in the trenches, and that kind of worries me with this team. So that's why I have them at 5-7 or 6-6 is what I have them at.
Okay.
Yeah. They have an easy schedule to start, though, I will say that.
Yeah, they're going to start off 5-0 probably.
Right. So. That's why I could see why you have them higher than what I have them at. But I have them slipping up, I'm pretty sure, early to Washington State. Just one of those weird games. I feel like. We'll see. I don't know. My opinion can change on that, but tonight, that's what I was thinking when I was going over everything. So,
What do they
yeah,
call that game? The Apple Cup?
yeah, something like
That's
that.
that's what I thought. Something Apple. I'm
Something
like,
Apple, yeah. Moving on, you had what?
Wisconsin's next for me.
What number are you at? 'Cause I have Wisconsin in my 3rd tier. I'm still on the 4th tier. With
No,
I got Indiana and Rutgers to round out my 4th tier.
that's fine. You can go ahead and go over them. We can go over Rutgers because we touched on Indiana.
Okay, yeah, just to touch up on Indiana real quick for me because I didn't really talk about them. I think they'll be a decent team. I got them 7-5. I think Kirk Cignetti, coach from James Madison last year, he brought in his whole staff over here to Indiana. I think they're a good staff, man. They brought up that James Madison program, recruited really well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So-
They recruit their ass off.
Yeah, so I think, and they got a decent transfer class this year, the number 28 class. They brought back 10 offensive players, 11 on defense. I think this team could be a sleeper team, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they won more than 7 games. I'm just saying, I have them at 7-5 though. So I think they have a lot of sneaky talent on this team, and they brought players over from James Madison as well. They said, "Yo, coach, I'm coming with you." So I think
I hear you.
and they got Curtis Rowe. I don't even know how to say the last name. He's actually Canadian, Canadian quarterback. His brother, I forgot his brother's name. Fuck, it's on top of my head, but he's a Canadian quarterback. He was a transfer from Ohio. He's a decent quarterback. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he plays as well. But they got a lot of good key pieces, like at receiver and tight end. They brought in from James Madison. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see how that team plays with those key pieces from their old team. So yeah,
I just
that's
worry
interesting.
about their talent. I just worry about their talent coming over. Does it scale to the Big Ten? That's my
I
biggest
hear
issue.
you. Yeah, their O line is a little bit of a concern as well, but other than that, I think they could be a sneaky team. And I think they won 7 games. That's what I had, 7-5, making a bowl game.
Gotcha.
And then moving on to Rutgers, we'll talk about them now. I think this team could also be a sneaky team.
I agree.
Bringing back 8 offensive starters, 8 defensive starters. Greg Schiano, head coach. I think he's a decent head coach. He's done a good job over there at Rutgers because that team was real bad before he got over there.
Second stint there, right?
Right.
That's
Before
what I
his
thought.
second stint, they were rough.
Yeah.
For a while. They got that quarterback from Minnesota last year. I don't even know how to say it. I'm not even gonna butcher his last
I'm about
name.
to say, go ahead and try it because I sure as hell ain't.
It's some Greek. He's some Greek last name. But he wasn't impressive to me at all at Minnesota. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he plays over here at Rutgers. But I do like their running back, Kyle Monogany, whatever his last name is too. I'm bad with pronouncing last names. Monogny, but
We
he's
just
good.
keep getting these teams with all these weird last names, man.
Yeah,
they gotta
dude,
have him in every skill position too, right? Like,
Right. But he's good. I like him. Like I said, look to be a decent team, but I'm thinking 6-6, 7-5 as well with this team.
Yeah.
Same thing with Indiana, pretty much is what I'm thinking with this team. So
Ain't
go
much
ahead.
separation between these guys, that's for sure.
Right.
A lot of these teams are going to be sitting right on that, cusp of a bowl game and 7 wins. Like, you're not going to get out of these tiers, in my personal opinion, you're not going to get that team that's going to give you 9 wins. Like, it's just not going to happen. 9, 8 wins.
Not a team in these tiers, no.
9, 8 wins is a lot to ask for from these teams. It's for me one of those things that I gripe constantly about it when I'm talking to people from Big Ten conference fans of those respective teams. The discrepancy in the really good teams and the really bad teams is the same discrepancy you see across the board in multiple conferences. You see it in the Big 12, you see it in the ACC, SEC. The difference in the top and the bottom is a wide difference. I mean, you're not talking, very close together. I don't know, man. These teams are rough. I don't see a chance for pretty much any of them to win 8 games.
I will say this though, they got a little stretch with this Rutgers team at Virginia Tech, Then they go play a home game versus Washington, then at Nebraska, then home versus Wisconsin, then home versus UCLA. So really those 4 games right there, that's where we're going to see
Yeah.
what they're made of.
They're
Because
losing.
I don't have them beating Virginia Tech on the road.
No.
I think
Nebraska
they
either.
I think they can beat Washington at home. Nebraska on the road, I don't see him winning that, and I don't see him beating Wisconsin either.
No.
So that's 3 L's I have them right there. So
Yep.
that's a tough stretch. If they could win 2 of those 4, then I'd be impressed with that because I don't think they will. So their schedule is pretty tough too in the middle right there, but it gets a little easier towards the end. They end the season with 4 games that they can win. So
heck yeah.
But that's where I have Rutgers as well. Moving on. Now I'm at tier 3 where I had Washington in my other one. Go ahead. Who'd you have in your tier 3?
Wisconsin's my next team.
Yeah.
I think they'll be solid. They run the ball well, always have. Still searching for that quarterback that they desperately need and have needed for a while now.
They got Van Dyke now, bro.
I know, but you know as well as I do, man, TVD ain't nothing to jump up and down about. He had one good season, and everybody was giving him flowers. He was going to be a first-round pick, and now he's having the Spencer Rattler treatment. I more or less think he'll give us the same thing that we saw at Miami. He's got less skill players there. That's not a good look. They did lose Braylon Allen to the NFL, so that's huge. He's a jet. But I just Wisconsin's a rough team for me. They're not scaling well, in the next coming years either, in my opinion. Like if you put them next to Nebraska, when you're talking about, scaling in the next coming recruiting classes and being always on the bubble for so-and-so transfer portal player, Nebraska just knocks them out of the water. So that's where the discrepancy in those two for me come. I do think Wisconsin will be solid. They usually are. You're going to probably get about 8 wins from Wisconsin. They usually are around that cusp of that. 8-9 wins, always a solid team. Haven't really got back to, the Wisconsin that everybody knew, like when Russ had the crazy year there. So I don't know, man. I hope they can get back to that status. But as of right now, I got them sitting at like 7-5, 8-4.
That's literally where I have me at exactly as well. I'm not really. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke, like you said, he had one good season. It's going to be interesting to see with a new team how he plays. I like this Chez Malusi running back they got, though, coming back.
Good old Chaz Malusi. He's a Clemson transfer. He was like 3rd string running back from Clemson like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I like him.
He's a big boy. He runs downhill really well.
Right. Wisconsin's always got those big running backs. You know what I'm saying? Those dogs.
Braylon Allen literally looks like a freaking linebacker playing running back. So, they produce the big boys down there. That's for sure.
They got some solid receiver talent, too. They got a transfer in from Michigan State as well. They had a decent transfer class, 23 ranked transfer class. Like I said, going to be interesting to see what Van Dyke gives you. Questions lie in the trenches as well for me with this team. But other than that, it's a recurring thing. Like I said, I think this is an 8-4, 7-5 team. Other than that, nothing else super impressive stands out to me. Middle of the pack team, usually where you have a team like Wisconsin. So that's where I got with Wisconsin. I'm not going to go too in depth with that. Let's move on. I had Nebraska right after them.
Same here.
Yep, Nebraska right after them.
I really like the way they're moving, man. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Nebraska's going to be back in a couple of years.
Right. This team is definitely trending in the right direction. Gotta like what you're seeing and what you're hearing out of Dylan Raiola. He's getting the Patrick Mahomes comparisons. He looks just like him. The kid literally he's dressing like him too. Kind of creepy in that way, but the dude literally looks like him, and he kind of plays like him too in a sense. He's a beast.
He's a freak, man. I'd like. Georgia lost a good one, that's for sure. He's got the connection down there with family coaching as well. I do think that Nebraska's taking the right steps, like I said, to be back within, 3-4 years, they're going to be in the conversation. I can promise you that. Money is no object for that school. They sell out constantly. That place is always going to be packed, loud as hell. So Raiola, love him. Can't wait to see more of him. He's going to have some growing pains, when you're facing teams like Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State within the coming years as well. But even still, man, I just think, they're just trending in the right direction step by step. Whereas,
100%.
when you're talking,
their defense looks to be their D
Yeah,
line.
man.
Their D line is strong, man.
especially from last year. Like last year, dude, they got crushed on defense. Like
Right.
this year, it just looks like it's going to be a flip of a switch. And I mean, you need that. And their head coach is a program rebuilder in college football, so he's known for it. Did it at Baylor. So, so I mean, I just like the way they're going. Hope to see more of it. And let's just hope Raiola doesn't get killed too bad when he has to face those top teams.
Facts. I mean, yeah, I like I said, this team in the trenches this year, as far as defensive line, is going to be strong.
Yeah.
This could be a sneaky team. I got them 7-5, could be 8-4. Could be even, like I said, could be better than what we say. Could be a sneaky team.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what I got him at as well. Matt Rule is doing a good job over there so far.
Indeed.
Going to be interesting to see week 2 is the game I have circled versus Colorado, the rematch. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, but other than that, I mean, they win that game versus Colorado, they could start 5-6-0.
Yep.
They could. They very well
There's a
could.
window for it.
So that's what is interesting about this Nebraska schedule and team this year. They could really start 5-6-0. They win that Colorado game. So moving on. After that, I had USC.
The Trojans.
The Trojans. What about you? You as well?
I had the same. Yeah.
USC. Okay.
They're kind of worrisome. Always on defense are going to be worrisome. Defensive coordinator from UCLA, who had a great defense for them last year, came over to USC, to his rival. I feel it was a really good hire, especially with the ridiculous amount of trouble they've had on defense in the past couple of years. And they haven't lacked talent. That's the problem. They're getting the players. I mean, they're constantly pulling, 4 and 5 stars on defense. It's just like they get there and then it's like, okay, we're just going to run soft zone all game and get killed. Miller Moss looked really, really good in the bowl game. Like him a lot. Hopefully, he keeps it going. Lincoln Riley always has a stinking quarterback. I don't know how the guy does it.
He does.
It's like every team he goes to, they're going to have a quarterback. You better believe
quarterback whisperer.
That's what they say. That's what they say. That's for sure. They said the same thing about Jim Harbaugh, though, so we won't talk about that.
We'll get to Michigan.
Yeah, for sure. They'll come up soon. But, yeah, man, USC, look for them to be better on defense. Hopefully they start turning the right page there. Like I said, like what I see out of Miller Moss. Branch, the wide receiver from last year, absolute ridiculous kick returner. He's got just elite speed. So on the outside, man, you better make sure you don't press him, because if you do, he's going to go right around you. So yeah, man, I like their skill positions. It's just, can they figure it out on freaking defense? They could score 40 points a game. They just can't stop anybody.
It's just they might get passed on for 400 yards. And
exactly.
That's what we worry about with USC. Yeah, I think Miller Moss is interesting. Could be a really good quarterback. Like you said, Lincoln Riley, the QB whisperer. They got running back Woody Marks coming in from Mississippi State. He looks like he's going to be a good player. Kyle Ford coming in from UCLA, transfer wide receiver. I think he's going to be a good player as well. You already mentioned Branch. He's a stud, really fast. Yeah, as far as this team on offense, I think they got some good skill positions, like you said. Good wide receivers. They just lack in DBs, like I was saying.
Yeah.
They can get passed all over. This defense is, it's been in the Pac-12. They're not used to being in the cold games that they're going to play in, and we'll see how that goes come November.
You see the amount of miles they had to travel this year?
That too.
It was an astronomical number. I think they said they could wrap around the world a couple times with the amount of miles that they have to go. I'm like,
That's
what?
another thing with these teams coming from the West Coast to play in these Big Ten games. The time change, the temperature. It's a lot of things that we're gonna have to handicap as far as like going over bets and stuff. As far we're gonna have to handicap that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they adjust all that. But they have a really good transfer class. A lot of players returning on defense outside of that. But the worry is the defensive backs for me on defense. But other than that, Lincoln Riley, good coach. I have him being 8-4, 9-3 at best.
Feel it.
Not the easiest schedule. Hold on a second. Let me look back at their schedule.
Open up with LSU.
Yeah, not the easiest schedule. Open up with LSU. I don't have them winning that game. People have them upsetting LSU, but I don't see it personally.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, so that's what I got on LSU, or not LSU, sorry, USC.
Where is that game, Rico?
Las Vegas.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought you told me. I thought you said it was
game in Vegas as well, so that does make it a little interesting, but
more of a home
LSU fan, LSU fans are going to show up still.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So moving on, I got Iowa next. I don't know who you had next. Iowa.
Same as well. The team with no offense.
The team with the most boring team in college football, ladies and gentlemen. The Iowa Hawkeyes. The team that only knows how to play defense.
Bro, if they put together like even an above average offense, they'd probably be a playoff team a couple years. Like they can't figure it out. Like how can you recruit and produce that much defensive talent, but you're telling me you can't get a couple of freaking offensive guys? Like,
bro,
it's rough. And Cade McNamara is buns.
Right. He doesn't wow me at all. And then they have decent running backs, but outside of that, their receivers are another concern once again. I mean, their offensive line's not as good as years past as well.
Tight end's about the only thing they produce on the offensive side of the ball.
I was just about to say they're a tight end university though. So
yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna have a decent tight end. They do have a good defense though, like you said, man. I mean, This is what this team leans on is their defense. Their linebackers, their DBs are good, their D line's good. So yeah.
Make sure you're watching out for them this year though, because Iowa unders are a very real thing, especially in home games, man. So when you're talking about playing there at home for Iowa, check out the under for every once in a while when you're looking at their matchups. Of course, don't be an idiot and bet a non-favorable matchup, but they're always a fun one to look at.
Facts. As far as record, what did you have them at?
Record-wise, I had it at 9-3.
Yeah, I had them 9-3. They're always that team that I don't know, just
it's like they're always ranked, always there, but never doing
right. You can't get to that 10-11 win mark. They don't have the offense for it. They had 10 wins last year, actually, but that was including their bowl game, obviously. But I got them being a 9-win team. And then that rounds out that tier. And then we move on to tier 2, where we have Michigan next is where I had.
Okay.
Number 4. You have Michigan at number 4 as well?
As well.
All right. Let's talk about Michigan.
Do we have to?
No, we have to, unfortunately. Can't stand their fans, huh?
No, man. I'm tired of the big blue fans. Tired of them. One hit wonder, man. You know that song when we were in high school that you're somebody that I used to know? That's going to be them, bro. They're going to give you one hit wonder and then right back to 8-9 wins at most.
Damn.
So I have zero faith that they'll be back to contending for a playoff. Because, dude, they lost everything. They have Sharon Moore, you know what I'm saying?
2 returners on offense. Yeah,
like it's and one of them luckily is one of the better running backs in the nation. But
Donovan Edwards is
dog.
Sure.
But dude, him and Isaiah Pacheco run the exact same way. They just run like a pissed off toddler. Like, but I don't know, man. I just feel like they'll be solid on the defensive side of the ball. They're always going to be good in the trenches. They have massive human beings at O-line. I'll tell you that.
Facts.
Their quarterback, Alex Orji, don't trust him. I think he's going to be, they're going to use him more as a dual threat. You're going to see a lot of read options. You can probably see a lot of, QB runs. He is effective in that. He's a pretty quick dude. I don't trust his arm. Neither do I trust their weapons on the outside. I definitely think they have the best cornerback in the nation in Will Johnson.
Yeah.
So you know what you're going to get. They're going to be extremely similar to Penn State this year for me. I don't think you'll see a lot of discrepancies between those two. They'll be extremely similar. But yeah, man, I have no faith that they'll be back within, Big Ten title contention within the next 2-3 years. So
I think you just nailed it about on the head. I was going to say that with Penn State, they got pretty much a similar kind of team, how they're going to play, how they're lined up. But I think Penn State obviously has the quarterback edge with Drew Aller, however you say his last name. Yeah, Michigan's concern is quarterback, man. I don't know what we're going to get with Alex Orji yet. I mean, nobody does. So that's
crazy name.
Concern. Right. Crazy name, right? You're going to hear a lot of people, a lot of commentators making comments on that.
There will be multiple memes made of this dude.
Yeah, it's going to be meme galore. But I think Michigan, like Iowa, is going to lean on their defense this year. I mean, for the most part, have a strong cornerback in Will Johnson. They got a really good D line this year as well. Have them the number 4 rated D line in the nation. So yeah, like I said, the QB and the wide receivers for me are the concern, which is what they were last year. They don't really have much at receiver as well this year. So how well are they going to be able to move the ball down the field concerns me.
Their tight end's good though.
Right.
Love good.
Yeah,
he's really good.
He's good. Yeah. But other than that, I'm talking like, outside receivers.
Yeah. I got
you. That concerns me, but I got them 9-3. Could be 8-4. Could see that as well.
Slipping up one.
But realistically, I see 9-3 is where I have them at. Losing to Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas.
Texas is going to humble Michigan fans so quickly, and I will look forward to it.
So yeah, I got Michigan at that 9-3. Moving on to Penn State, the Nittany Lions. Coach James Franklin, I think it's his 8th season. Something like that. He's been there for a minute. And when he first got there, I thought, this team is going to be something special.
They were going to take off.
I thought they were going to take off. Yeah. I thought Penn State was going to go back to, playing for that big game, big bowl games. I mean, they've been to some of them, obviously the Rose Bowl, but
they looked awful in the Chick-fil-A Bowl last year.
Yep. The Chick-fil-A Bowl. Yeah.
Or Peach Bowl, whatever you want to call it. They change the name of it every other year.
Right. So getting into this team, they got quarterback Drew Aller coming back. Nick Singleton at running back as well, which he's a dog. I like him. He's a really good running back. Tight end Tyler Warren looks to be a big piece for them as well. Like I said, offensively, they're going to run the ball. They're like Michigan. They're going to run the freaking ball. That's what they do. Drew Aller can make those plays, though, I think, this year. It's a big test for him. Can he make those big plays and plays in big games that are going to be needed, those big third downs? So, yeah, I think they're going to be a little bit in question with Drew Aller at points. But as far as the offense, they're going to lean on the running backs. I think they're going to be solid. And that defense is looking really strong. Defensive line, strong linebackers, strong DBs as well. So, I think they're a 10-2, 9-3 team.
Yeah.
Go ahead, BK.
I got them right about the same, 10-2, 9-3. The thing about Penn State for me is it's like they reach that point where they can be, a double-digit win team, and then they just stayed pretty much stagnant from there on out. It's like they're not moving anywhere. They're not going down. They're not going up. They're just sitting at the same spot. Aller, for me, they've got to let the kid throw the ball down the field. He's another one of those guys, man, that's like teams. I don't understand what it is with teams like FSU, for an example, with DJ Uiagalelei. I don't understand what it is when you have these guys with these freaking massive arms that can throw 70, 65 yards, and you're going to do a dunk pass every single time. I mean, there was times last year, dude, when I'm sitting there watching Penn State, and you'd be screaming at the TV because they're throwing a check down and, you got a dude wide open down the field 15 yards. And it's like they refuse to throw the ball down the field. And it might be Aller, man. He might just be making the read. You know, he's just like,
You're right, but
he
it's
ain't
also
there.
coaching, though. It's also coaching,
Exactly.
you know? So,
And I
right, they got to
believe they
let the man
had,
throw the ball.
I believe they had an offensive coordinator change.
Ooh, Penn State?
Yes.
Let me confirm. The new OC. Yep, new OC.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, hopefully they'll bring in a new scheme there, give him something that he can, you know, push the ball down the field a little bit more. Singleton's a dog, but he can't do it by himself.
Exactly.
If you want to win those big games, Aller's going to have to show it. He can do what he needs to do. He was a big time recruit. They were ecstatic when they got him. He's got to show it, man. Like, he's one of those guys to me that in that bowl game, he looked abysmal. Like, there was times that I remember they showed a mom in the stands. She looked straight at the freaking camera and said, "What the fuck is he doing?" Like, and I mean, it gets to the point where even as fans, you sit here and watch it, and you're just like, this cannot be the scheme that you sat there and drew up all week. So I don't know, man. Penn State's got to win some big games though. Year after year,
they never win. Year after year, they just don't win those big games.
No,
That's
man.
the issue with Penn State. That's why I always have them on that outside looking in. That's why I will once again. Can they win? I wouldn't be surprised if they won those big games, but I just don't see it happening.
And I like Franklin. I like Franklin because I know you touched on him as well.
We didn't even mention Abdul Carter. Their D line.
True.
Their D end. He's a freaking dog.
Yeah, he'll be a first round pick for sure.
Yeah, absolute dog. So he's their stud on defense as well. But yeah, James Franklin, go ahead.
Yeah, James Franklin for me, dude. I think he's one of the most misunderstood coaches in the nation. Everyone expects him to be able to push Penn State to the same level that, you know, I hate to say these words, Harbaugh pushed Michigan to, or like, you know, Kyle Whittingham pushed Utah to, stuff like that. Franklin hasn't done that, but too many people expect him to in the same extent. Penn State needs to understand that they're Penn State. A lot of the times, year after year, we've sat here and said the same things. They got to win the big game. Last year, we said it. I remember I said it when we did our show on Instagram Live. I sat there and said they're going to either beat Ohio State or Michigan. Didn't do either. They looked terrible in both games. Couldn't do anything offensively. So, I mean, Franklin at some point got to take that next step. If he doesn't, you're just going to sit there and say, okay, we're just going to accept 10 wins and be okay with that.
Yeah. And
which is fine. But
yeah, the fan base getting tired of losing those big games too at the same time. So, moving on. I mean, we can talk about Oregon and Ohio State, but I feel like we've already kind of covered. So just to wrap that up in a quick wrap up to get to the week 1 picks. I mean, we got Oregon winning the Big Ten. So, I mean, what do you want to say real quick about that? I mean, we've already talked about it, so I don't really want to even go too far into it. It's going to take up another 10, 20 minutes of the time here. So,
yeah, for me, I just wanted to say, you know, same thing I said before. Week 7, it's going to tell a lot. That game, you'll find out. So, I mean, it's the most telltale game. That's all you need.
Right. We've talked about the coaches. We talked about the skill players, all that over there. So, yeah, if you really wanted to tune into the first episode and you'll hear what we said about that.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, moving on to the week 1 games and picks. Thursday night, we're going to get into the first game. It's going to be my UNC Tar Heels traveling to Minnesota, where we opened as an underdog at +2. But now we checked today. The spread is completely flipped. Yeah, like you just said, it just flipped. And now we are the -1.5 favorites at Minnesota.
Still taking it.
BK, what do you think about that flip of the spread, and what do you think about this game before I talk about it?
I mean, you know, I don't understand why the line opened up the way it was in the first place. Both teams, you know, have moving pieces. So it's not like, you know, one team was, you know, more physically equipped with returning players than the other. Minnesota, of course, did return a decent amount. I don't think their skill is, you know, enough to equate that. Can they stop the run? That's the thing that, in my opinion, is going to matter. Can they stop Hampton? They're going to have to. If they want any sort of a chance, they're going to have to stop the run. Quarterback situation, I'll let you brush on that. Get the balls to the tight ends. Y'all got too many of them. defensive wise, stop the run. Don't give up too much on the pass because we know it's going to happen. You can't say stop the pass because we know as well as anybody that North Carolina has DBs of your local high school. So it's rough. They get a couple big plays. I feel like more or less that UNC defense is kind of put their head in between their legs and quit. But new defensive coordinator, though.
I was gonna say I think it's a new mentality this year
I feel
on
it.
defense.
Did y'all switch schemes? Do you know?
I still haven't figured that out.
Gotcha.
I haven't
No, I
looked
got
into
you.
that. But as far as this game, I'm going with us as well. I just think the talent discrepancy is the biggest.
Yeah, that's
the biggest factor in this game. I think we have a lot better skill players, comparable running backs, being Darius Taylor on their end, and we
I don't
got
know about
Amari
comparable though.
I mean, their running back room's right behind us in rankings. So
no, I just mean like the discrepancy in RB1 is what I.
Oh, an RB1, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Not comparable. Amari and
No.
Hampton's definitely the better running back.
Yeah.
As far as the running back room's pretty comparable, but I think we have the receiver edge by a lot, and I think our offense is going to be too much. I'm interested to see how the quarterback play goes with playing both of our quarterbacks and how he works both of them in. That's going to be interesting to see. But I think ultimately we run the ball and give the ball to Hampton. He's going to make plays and he's going to run over people.
Yep.
And we get the ball to our tight ends, Nesbitt, Copenhaver, and got those speed guys on the outside. So I think we can make some plays on offense, limit the big plays. I think we're a good spot here. It kind of scares me a little bit that the spread flipped, I'm not going to lie, but we're favored here for a reason. We're the better team. Give me Carolina all day here. I'm not scared of Minnesota at all.
I'll say the only thing is for me that makes me a little bit worrisome. I hope more or less that they don't flip-flop quarterbacks all game. I hope somebody will get a feel and they'll keep them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I hope somebody will get in a groove and they'll keep them. I hope they don't sit there and just flip-flop every other drive because that can get to the point to where, nobody has a rhythm because everybody knows playing with one quarterback is going to be different than the other. For those of you that don't know, it was announced last week that UNC will be playing both Max Johnson and what's your backup quarterback's name? Corral?
Connor Harrell.
So, yeah, they'll be flipping back and forth between those two. Definitely think it'll be a good game.
I just read because I had to know now. Jeff Collins runs a more aggressive approach, press defense with his defensive backs. So we're gonna be looking more
in demand.
Yeah, which could be
That's
better.
creepy.
It could be scary, but like I said,
at least
we got better players on defense this year. I'm telling you, and at DB we're improved this year. I'm telling you. It's definitely still scary, but I think our DB room's improved this year. And I think our defense is going to be a lot better than what people think.
Can't be any worse, that's for sure.
It can't be. No, it really can't be. As far as the run, though, it's always been pretty solid, but it's the pass that kills us. So with that being said, in that game, as long as the line doesn't keep moving, I like UNC to get it done. I'm definitely gonna have that as a 1-unit play. Could be more, just depending on, like I said, how the spread moves. Moving on, there's not too many notable games on Thursday night. The next one to talk about is Coastal Carolina versus Jacksonville State. We got Coastal as underdogs here, plus 2.5 on the road at Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State home favorites, minus 2.5.
Not too many years. You've been able to say Coastal Carolina is going to be an underdog walking into a game, especially against a team that just became an FBS team, FBS Division I team at that.
And that says a lot to me, just right there. So keep going.
So when you're talking about Coastal Carolina, they're going to struggle on defense, fast-paced offense. Grayson McCall's gone, going to have to figure it out. They're always going to get those 3-star skill position guys that are pretty solid. Like I said, their offense is lightning fast. They can score like that and give it up on the defense just like that. So I can't tell you how many times we were sitting there last year and we took Coastal and we're like, dude, why do we do this again?
They just underperformed, bro. It was coaching. It was just their defense was so bad. They pissed
The
me off.
Southern Miss game, dude. The Southern Miss game I remember last year was terrible. I'm like, God almighty, bro. You score 14 points and then give up 17 just like it just didn't happen. Like, I'm like, come on now.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a rough game. Probably a stay away spot for me. But Jacksonville State's going to be, a pretty above average team in the Sun Belt for most standards when you're talking about in comparison to the Sun Belt. Sun Belt teams are pretty top heavy as well.
Liberty runs that conference, but I think Jacksonville
They're
State
USA, brother.
No, and that's what hold on, I'm tripping.
Yeah, I was about to say you said Liberty in the Sun Belt.
Jacksonville State's Conference USA.
Okay, so I'm incorrect. So that means
you're incorrect.
My bad.
Hold on a second. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Jacksonville State's Conference USA. I have them as a dark horse in that conference.
I like it.
With that being said, with this game, Coastal's got a lot of moving pieces. Quarterback Noah Kim, transfer from Michigan State, coming in. I think he can be decent. He showed flashes at Michigan State that he could be a good quarterback, but I don't see it early in the season yet. With that being said, Jacksonville State's got a lot of pieces coming back. Rich Rodriguez, I'm high on him as a head coach. I faded him last year a few times, and I regretted it. He came in and turned this team around pretty quick. Like you said, this team being an FCS team, now FBS team, and they're favored versus a team like Coastal, that tells you a lot because a lot of people know Coastal and know them as a big name, a bigger name than Jacksonville State. And they're going to see that spread and they're going to say, oh, shit, Coastal's an underdog, smashing that.
Yeah.
So for that reason, and I like Jacksonville State's offense. I like the way they run the ball with their quarterbacks and they switch it up. I like the way they switch it up at quarterback. Like I said, Rich Rodriguez, a good head coach. I'm going with Jacksonville State on the money line here. Minus 134 on FanDuel. That's going to be one of my plays. I'm letting y'all know right now. I'm going Jacksonville State in this game. I just think they're the better team. 9-4 record last year. They performed way higher than expectations. I think Rich Rodriguez keeps it going and the momentum going this year. So, give me Jacksonville State. And I don't know how many units I'm going to put on that yet, but I like that play right now. I will say that. So that's definitely one I will be on. Moving on, we got North Dakota State going to Colorado. And this spread, when people see this spread too, this is one that people see and they're like, hold up. How is North Dakota State only 9.5-point dogs versus this star-studded Colorado team that Deion Sanders, gets hype every year.
Yep.
Like every year since he's been there, it's been the hype train over there. So seeing that 9.5, what do you think, BK? What do you think about this game?
I think it's just people not knowing enough about North Dakota State, not watching enough D2 football. Usually it's them or South Dakota, every other year. They usually end up playing each other. Montana's usually there as well. I don't know, man. I would like to say that I would like to bet Colorado, but at the same time, every square in the world is going to bet Colorado. So for me, it's a stay off spot. If I had to lay it, it would probably be Colorado for me just because I trust their talent.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
But North Dakota State plays good football, hard-nosed football at that too. So, maybe they come out and smack them in the mouth, give them a little bit of a scare. Who knows? Yeah. Wouldn't be shocked. But at the same time, the talent discrepancy is pretty wide.
Yeah, as far as this game, I agree with what he said with the talent discrepancy. I just think North Dakota State, I think at first they can keep this game close in the first half. I think they could keep it close, but then ultimately I think Colorado runs away with it and probably does cover that number. It's not going to be a pick for me because the number is just weird. I actually have Colorado winning this game by 14 points in my numbers. So that's why it kind of scares me with the 9.5. Yeah.
You know as well as I do,
North Dakota State is going to win this battle in the trenches is where I'm scared.
Yeah.
That's where I'm scared. But I know what Colorado has on the outside. I know their skill positions, man. I just can't fade that. So yes, the number's weird. Yes, it's off from where I have it, but yeah, it's a no bet for me. But I would lean the. With that being said, I guess I would have to lean the North Dakota State side with the points because the spread is so different than what I had in my numbers. But
Gotcha.
I'm not betting that game. That's a no
Yeah,
bet.
there's just going to be way too much money put on Colorado. Way too much money.
That's another thing too. Yeah.
They're going to
So.
be heavily bet. So I mean, people need to
All season
kind of
they
realize
will.
that. Yeah,
All
for
season
sure.
they will be. Yeah.
For
All
sure.
season.
That Nebraska
Moving on.
game is going to be crazy too. So
That's gonna be a crazy one. I'm looking forward to that one. Moving on, we got what's some other notable games to talk about for week 1. Not gonna go over too many. Not gonna go over every single game because there's so many games with wide spreads and we're running low on time now. All right, we got TCU at Stanford. Same spread as the Colorado spread. 9.5 points for TCU on the road at Stanford. What do you think here?
that's a long way to travel.
Yeah.
That's a long ass way to travel. I take TCU. I don't like Stanford at all. We touched on them, in the ACC breakdown in episode 2. I don't know, dude. You said they were going to be the worst team in the conference.
Yeah, they
TCU,
are. Them and Virginia are hand in hand for me.
Yeah.
It was hard to decide there, but TCU's not good either.
But I trust their coach, dude. I trust Sonny Dykes. I always have.
I do too. I agree with that.
They're gonna score points, man.
As far as the 9.5, that's just such a weird number for me, man. Like that's such a gross number.
And it's like you would almost feel more comfortable with like a 13.5. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, like
it would give you like that more security of like, okay, yeah, like what
right. If I'm gonna lay the favorite,
offense.
I might buy it to that 13 and get plus money.
Yeah,
like I kind of agree with you there, but yeah, this isn't once again another game that I'm not going to be putting my money on. But with the spread being like this, I kind of lean Stanford with the points.
Wow,
I don't know why. It's just a weird number. I don't like these 9.5.
Watch them come out and win.
I just don't like these numbers. Like I said, TCU, I think better team. They should win this game, but covering that 9.5, it could be some backdoor BS. And this spread is slowly climbed up. Like earlier last week, I checked this game; it was 8.5. Now it's 9.5. So what's that telling you? People are betting TCU like crazy. I don't know. Could be a public heavy bet game. I think Stanford could cover that number, but not something I'm probably going to be betting.
No, definitely not for me. That game's ugly.
Moving on, we'll talk about some games that we can put some money on that are coming up for Saturday. Start with Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt. Got Virginia Tech on the road at Vanderbilt, 13.5 point favorites. Me and BK talked about
this line, man. Why is that line the way it is?
Yeah,
my fault. Go ahead.
It feels short. Yeah, we talked about this earlier. It feels short, so I feel you. But ultimately, I just think this game, Virginia Tech just rolls this team.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't see it any other way. I think this is a game where you buy the 13 now, get it down to 13 now because it's going to go up to 14.5 by Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
So if y'all see this video now, or whenever it drops, I would get it then. So what do you think, BK?
Yeah, it's definitely going to flip quick. That's for sure. It's going to just keep growing. Virginia Tech's offense is way too explosive to be able to be stopped by Vandy. Their defense is solid too, man. Yeah, Drones is gross. He's going to have a day against them. But their defense too is sneakily good. Like, I think a lot of people were sleeping on VT's defense. So
I agree.
They run a lot of soft zone, but they do a lot of stunt blitz as well. So I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be one of mine for sure on Saturday that I like. We'll find out.
Yeah, I got Virginia Tech minus 30. I'm buying the half point down to 13. Give me Virginia Tech minus 13. That's going to be one of my picks as well. I just think they have too much for Vanderbilt. I think they win this game by 20 plus. Should be an easy blowout win for them is what I think. Vanderbilt, too many moving pieces. Virginia Tech bringing back almost everyone. They want to make a statement early.
Yes, sir.
Give me Virginia Tech to make a statement. Let's move on. Clemson playing versus the Georgia Bulldogs, where they are big underdogs. What do we think about Clemson here? Plus 13.5. Was this a
Biggest.
neutral site game? Correct me if I'm wrong. Neutral
Well, I
site
mean, you
game.
could call it a mutual site game, but it ain't no mutual site game. It's a home
in
game
Georgia,
for Georgia.
isn't it? That's
Yeah,
right. Okay.
it's a home game
I
for
figured.
Georgia. It's in the
I
Falcon
thought so.
Stadium. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Go ahead.
For me, you know, biggest. I could be wrong, but I think I read that it was the biggest regular season point differential going into a game that we've had in a very long time. So week one going into them, you know, minus 13.5 for Georgia. I like Clemson with the points. I think their defense is going to keep it steady. Offense is going to have to make sure they put points on the board. That's going to be a very big thing. Last time these two teams played, you know, looked very different, of course, for both sides. Georgia was just, you know, on the cusp of their run, and Clemson was on the outside looking in of the last run they had. So definitely went two teams that went in totally different directions. Georgia dominating football, Clemson trying to get back to where they were. But even still, man, I really trust the defense this year for Clemson. I look for them to keep it close. Phil Moffitt's going to have to run the ball really well. Cade's going to have to make the right decisions. For me, I see this game being like a 31-21 game, Georgia. But I do like Clemson to be able to cover.
I hear you. The thing for me is, man, there's just levels. And Georgia's just on that level that they're just above everybody, I think, as far as talent, recruiting. They're just at another level, man. And that's the reason why you see this such a high spread. 13.5. I think Clemson is the move at 14 points, and that's probably where I'm going to go. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cade Klubnik and the offense just can't move the ball, and that's what I'm scared about once again. Can they move the ball in this Georgia defense? I don't know. How are these receivers going to get open on these DBs? I don't know, BK. I don't know. And running too much with Phil Maffa, that's going to be too obvious. I don't know, man. I have a hard time seeing y'all scoring a lot of points is where I struggle with the spread. But I do ultimately see – I could see a backdoor bullshit cover, or I could see y'all keeping it close. That's how I see this game going. I see Georgia either blowing you out from the start and then you guys come back and make it close at the end or backdoor cover, or I see just a close game all the way through. So for that reason, I like Clemson with the points, 14 points. I think they make it I think they cover and make it like a 10-point game, like you said, somewhere around that range. It could even be 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
Right on the number like Vegas has it, but yeah, I think Clemson is the move here. Just scares me. Moving the ball is scaring me. But I do think that defense holds them in the game. That being said, the under could be a good play in this game. I don't play totals. I'm not a very good total bettor. But, yeah, that's what I got. I think Clemson does cover the number, but it is going to be a sweaty bet, I think, is what I'm basically getting at.
Hey.
Yeah, I think Clemson gets it done with the cover. Don't think they upset them, though.
If we do, you ain't going to hear me shut up for weeks. I'm going to promise you that.
This is the game that I've been waiting to talk about, and this is going to be my dog of the week right here. We got Penn State going to West Virginia. And when I tell you West Virginia is going to be rocking this game, absolutely freaking rocking. Watch what I tell y'all. Tune into this game and watch how rocking the stands is going to be. This is going to be an insane game. Penn State minus 8.5 on the road at West Virginia, plus 8.5. You're going to give me 8.5 points with the stadium. That's going to be absolutely electric. Maybe even take first half here, but I'm going West Virginia plus 8.5 and money line plus 2 something. It's definitely 2-1 or higher. I'm going Penn State to shock going West Virginia to shock the world early in the season. I like West Virginia to get it done. Garrett Green at quarterback. He's a stud, I think. Head coach has been there for some years now. I don't even remember his name off the top of my head, but he's a funny guy. I think this is a team that has some swagger, and I think they're going to come in game one. It's going to be rocking. I think they upset Penn State. I'm saying it here first. No one's going to agree with me on this. I don't really care, but give me West Virginia with the upset.
He said, "Country roads take me home."
It's going to be rocking in that place, bro. At least first half.
No, I hear you.
But go
I hear
ahead.
you. If for me on that game, I would probably take Penn State. I'd probably buy it down. It's going to be too juicy of a number to buy down, so I'm going to stay away. West Virginia does have a great offense, but their defense is pretty poop soup.
Yeah,
in my
I
opinion.
agree. That's obviously the scary part, but
yeah, they're going to have to, just rely on being fired up, man. They got to be fired up for that game.
bro, they've been circling this game all summer long, dude. They're ready for this game. That's one of these games, bro. Like,
it ain't the backyard brawl, but it's probably close to it. So
I just think this number 2, I'm definitely taking the points. I'm sprinkling the money line, but the points, I'm all over it. You're giving me 8.5. I'm taking that for sure. So I don't know how many units yet, but that's another one of those plays that I'm definitely going to be looking at is West Virginia. And nobody's going to agree with me, like I said, but why not? Why not take a shot?
Call it.
On a 2-1 dog. It's college football. Look what happened this past weekend. Nobody thought Georgia Tech was going to win. Look what happened.
Yep.
Come on. Happens all the time. So I'm going West Virginia to get the upset. I think their offense is enough to keep them in this game. That's where I was going with it. Yes, their defense is mid. I agree. But offense is going to keep them in this game. The crowd's going to keep them in this game. I like the upset here. All right, next, moving on, we got South Dakota State.
This is the game I want.
Versus Oklahoma State. Another weird number. 9.5 point spread.
Weird.
South Dakota State being the 9.5 point underdog. Oklahoma State being the 9.5 point favorite. Go ahead.
Not weird for me. The only reason why I say is because people are expecting South Dakota State to play really well in the trenches. Very similar to North Dakota State in that aspect versus Colorado. So that's why people are thinking that. This one for me, I'm not running away from it. Oklahoma State is going to floor them, in my personal opinion. I like Oklahoma State with the points here. Gundy's offense is going to be Gundy's offense. Got to get a couple stops on defense. You'll be just fine to be able to cover that 10.
I agree. Not much really to say about this. I think Ollie Gordon has a day.
Yeah.
The quarterback's going to have a day. Yes, the trenches worries me a little bit, but ultimately, I got to go with Oklahoma State there. I don't really like the spread. It's kind of gross, kind of scares me, but I'm definitely throwing Oklahoma State money line a parlay with something. So there you go. That's a parlay piece right there. If you want to use them for a parlay piece, you could parlay them with another, decently sized favorite that we talked about, maybe Colorado or somebody else. Moving on, got Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Notre Dame on the road at 2.5 point underdogs at Texas A&M, 2.5 point favorites at home. BK, what do you think about this one?
It's kind of what we were talking about in our text. I had said to you in our conversation that, this game's weird to me. I want to take Notre Dame because I do like Notre Dame's talent, especially on defense. They got Riley Leonard coming in for quarterback. Running backs are very stellar. They're always going to have a good O-line, good tight ends. But the scary part, is having to go play in Kyle Field. Lately, has that been? Yep. And lately has that been, such a scary thing to go do? Not really, what I'm saying in the aspect of Jimbo Fisher era. But
this is the Mike Elko era.
Exactly. So, I definitely expect their defense to show up. Elko always has a great defensive scheme. Not much of an offensive coach, but they do have a lot of offensive talent. I don't know, man. That line, I think, is screaming for somebody to bet Notre Dame, and it's like
I agree with you on that. That's what scares me about betting.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I think it's the right play. And being said, I like Notre Dame.
Dog.
I just think Notre Dame, man, they've been in games like this to start the season. Like they've been tested like this. Like they're used to these big tests. You know what I'm saying? And for Texas A&M, this is a big test for them. First game of the year. New
not only that.
I don't know, man. I just think more talent on the Notre Dame side of the ball. Marcus Freeman, like him as a head coach, man. He doesn't get enough love, I don't think. I think he's an excellent head coach. Probably one of the best in the nation, in my opinion.
In my personal opinion, he's done better than Brian Kelly did at first.
He doesn't get no love, bro. He really does. Nobody talks about him.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And not only that, one thing I wanted to touch on, make sure when you're sitting there looking at this game and assessing it, just keep in mind the head coach now that is at Texas A&M, Mike Elko, his former quarterback is starting on the other side of the field for Notre Dame. If there's anybody that knows him, it's him.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
So you gotta think about that in that aspect, especially a defensive-minded coach going against his former quarterback. He's going to know everything he can't do.
That's true. You got a good point with that. Wow. Okay. Makes me think a little bit there, but still, ultimately, I still think Notre Dame's the right side. I'm not sure if I'm betting this yet, but that's the side on the podcast that I'm leaning as of right now.
Feel it.
What do you think? Same thing, or you?
Yeah, same thing. If I had to lean one, it'd be Notre Dame. I'm kind of 50-50 still because, like I just said, that really scares me. That
as y'all can tell, I like to bet dogs, bro. I like to win with plus money. I don't like to go with the obvious minus picks. Like that's just not how. I mean, I do it with parlays. Like I'll throw like big money lines together and do parlays. Y'all will see. But other than that, I like to attack underdog spots. So that's just how I like to bet. Anyways, moving on to the last game we'll talk about, then we'll wrap up the show. Got USC versus LSU. This game is in a mutual site. Didn't we say Vegas? Yeah, Vegas. Got USC at the 4.5 point underdog. LSU 4.5 point favorite. Kyle, what do you got on this one?
LSU. It's that plain simple. I shouldn't have to say much more. Too many things that we've talked about with USC that scares me way too much. LSU is always going to have great wide receivers. Can you trust Nussmeier? I don't know yet, but I sure hope, because more or less defensively, talent, everywhere you look across the board,
coaching.
They're going to, in my personal opinion, be better. I don't know about coaching. I probably would take USC staff at this point, just because I like Riley and I do like the defense coordinator that came over from UCLA. Brian Kelly always has a solid staff, but Brian Kelly's Brian Kelly. He's going to give you what he's going to give you.
Right. Yeah. In this game, I don't really like the number 4.5. It's another one of those games I just don't like the number. It just sketches me out. Yes, I lean the LSU side. That's going to be my pick for the podcast, but I don't know if I'm betting this game yet, y'all. And I don't want to give y'all a wrong read here.
Might be a live boy.
Yeah, it might be a live bet kind of game. I ultimately like LSU, but yeah, this could be one of those games that's a shootout.
Yeah,
it really could be. Or LSU, I think, could shut down their offense, and then LSU ultimately controls the game. That's how I see this game playing out.
There is no other way. Like it's either going to be close, or LSU is just going to stomp them. Like there's no other way, in my opinion.
So those are all the picks for the week one that we wanted to go over for now. So BK, what do you think, man? Anything else you want to say about week one?
It's all about the Paul. That's what it's always about.
Even though they hopefully don't get demolished by 30.
No, we're not going to.
Don't get beat by 30, please. And I'll be really feeling stupid about taking you off as an ACC champion. Please just show me some promise on offense, and I'll be happy.
You're trying to say you're scared about us being an ACC champion if we lose to Georgia by an astronomical number when we just saw FSU freaking shit themselves?
I'm joking. Anyways. To wrap up the show, guys, what's coming next? We're going to talk about the Big 12 next week, recap week one, all the picks we just talked about, obviously. You guys can find me on Instagram at Rico's Locks. BK, where can they find you?
BK's _ picks on Instagram. About to go through a quick little rebrand, though. Be on the lookout for that. But for right now, that's what you'll find me at. Look forward to week one, man. Last week was, like we said, it was about an Applebee's appetizer. I'm ready for the full steak dinner right now, boy, for week one.
Applebee's appetizer.
That was crap. So,
bro, yeah, it really was. Even though the Georgia Tech, that was a good game. That was
hype, dude. That was fun. That was a fun game.
And I'm glad they covered, and we got the podcast pick correct there to start the podcast. So that was a good look there. I appreciate everybody joining. Make sure you give BK a follow and myself a follow as well. Keep subscribing, keep sharing. We appreciate all y'all. We are at 54 subscribers now. Let's keep climbing. Let's keep it moving, and let's keep pushing these winners. And thank you guys again for joining. Have a good one.
Later.